We light our chalice today in the sure and certain knowledge that when we call out for relief, our community will answer. May it always be a beacon of comfort for the weary, the sad, and the suffering.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Amy Petrie. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs. And we are gathered today on land that's the traditional territory of the indigenous Iowa people. Rabbi Avi Strasberg writes, "When we feel safe, we can invite people in and call out for help when we need it. Calling for help, asking for something, and expecting a response, whether yes or no, is something people in general are familiar with. We all have varying levels of comfort with sharing our problems and asking for help, but we understand how common a thing this is for us to do. More uncommon these days is the idea of publicly crying out without necessarily expecting action. So a month or so ago, I was talking to a local organizer, and she brought up the idea of lamentation. And she said, isn't it something to think about that UUs do not have a tradition in particular of lamentation? That this is something multiple other religions do, but it's not something we often address. This idea of crying out in grief or sorrow as an outward expression of inner pain. So today, we're going to talk about lamentation and what it is, and the need for witness in our communities. So come and let us celebrate here together.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. My name is Louise Alcorn. My pronouns are she, her. Thank you for joining us. We welcome all of you to our service, especially those of you who are searching for something more. More love, more joy, more freedom, more service, more learning. Whether it's your first time in service with us or your 100th time, we hope that you'll find here questions that stretch you, people to befriend you, and liberal religious values that challenge you to join us in loving radically, serving justly, and growing spiritually and emotionally. Our gathering song this morning is number 360, Here We Have Gathered. Our song leader is actually Susan Gunther. Sarah, I'm so tired. Sorry, Sarah Bear.
My name is Susan. It's okay. It happens all the time.
Okay, all right. I know. Please keep your mics muted if you're on Zoom, and simply sing along at home if you would like.
its battles, sorrows, and regret. But in the shadows, let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us as we give, we gain. Sing now to worship this our heart's own song.
Welcome to our children's chapel, for any of you children who are here and for any who are following along at home. Today we're talking about lamentation. That's a big word and probably not one you've heard. So what does it mean? Well, it means to cry out or to yell out or to tell the world, I'm hurt, help. Well, that sounds like a request, like you might say to somebody, but it's not quite the same thing. The easiest way I can explain it is I want you to think back to when you were real little, and maybe you used to fall down a lot more than you do now. Can you think about the first time you fell down and you scraped your knee hard? Like really hard. And it hurt so bad that in that minute, all you could do is say, it hurts. You didn't even have the time or the thought to call for your parent or your guardian or your mom or your dad or your dog. All you could do was stand there going, it hurts. Because it hurt so bad. And once you caught your breath, maybe you said, oh, I hate that curb, it made me fall. And maybe you said, somebody come help. Because all you could do was stand there calling out to the whole world to say, I hurt. Somebody, look, I hurt. You didn't care who saw you. You just wanted somebody to know that your knee really hurt. And that's what lamentation is all about. It's about calling out to make sure that the world knows that something really hurts you right now. And there are some rules to it, and there are some ways to do it if you want to officially lament. Not many of us do anymore. But the whole point of lamentation is not letting feeling hurt cut you up inside. Sometimes when you're hurt inside, when you're sad, when you're mad and sad, when your brain hurts, when the world isn't fair, when you keep all that inside, it hurts worse. Sometimes you just need to let it all out. Let the world know it's not fair and it hurts, because then it can start to get better. And even though it's not a request, the people that hear you saying it hurts can come to your aid. Not because you asked it of them, but because they feel your pain. They understand that you're a human being just like them, and they understand that skin, knees hurt, and hurt hearts hurt. So that's lamentation. Thank you for listening to my words today. And I believe we are going to have a spotlight now. Greg, are you in the house? Yes, he is. Greg Nichols, I'd like to invite you up front.
Governance of our church is not a solo sport. It's a team sport. And to that end, today, we begin a season of transitions in leadership in the coming months that requires your input. Before you, you have the 3 months left to go, chair of the board and the incoming chair of the board for next year. And today, we're going to kick off that process of seeking your input about how we're doing and what goals we want to set for the future. To that end, I'm going to introduce our Vice President of the Board, Reba Eagles, to talk to you about how we begin and where we go from here.
Hi, Reba Eagles, Greg's current shadow. He doesn't know, but he just said most of what I was going to say. So this is me tap dancing. We're going to be in the back of the auditorium at 10:45 today to talk about this new process and how the goals of the board and the goals of the church in the coming years are going to be set yearly by you. So your voice is very important. We're going to be asking a couple of questions this year. How do we remain relevant? And what do you need from our church in the coming year? So I want you to be thinking about that, because if you keep watching the intercom, there'll be some explanation and some times where we're going to be having some small group meetings where you can come and really talk about what's important to you. So we'll be in the back explaining the process a little bit. We'll also be available to answer any questions you might have about kind of anything church related. And we're also here to listen if you have something you want to tell us. So we look forward to seeing you at 10:45. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg and Reba, and please, please do consider coming. This is so much the work of the church. This is you getting to have a voice. So please come. Our offering words today are offered with levity because giving should never be painful. A man goes to a church for a first time, and when the service was over, the preacher greeted him at the back. The man hugged the preacher, and in a huge cloud of profanity said, "Preacher, that was one blankety blank 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 amazing sermon." "Oh my," said the preacher. "We don't use that kind of language here." "Oh, I'm so sorry," the man said. I'm new to church. I've never done this before. I'm not really sure what to do. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know what to do when the collection plate came by. They told me to put some money in, so I threw in $1,000. I hope that was all right. There was a long pause, and the preacher said, "You know, that's just blankety blank 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 fine with me." The morning offering will now be given and received with or without profanity. There will be a link in the chat. One half of our plate, as always, goes to our internal social justice work, and one half goes external to our faith and action partners, Knock and Drop and Just Voices.
First time there's passed. No. Couldn't make this.
So, you may have noticed that I'm wearing a fair few hats today. I'm the celebrant. I'm going to be singing in the choir in a minute here. I'm even serving you coffee later. But I have one more hat to put on today. Food fair enthusiast. Doesn't quite fit. Many of you, sorry, I have a large head. One moment. All right, we're just going to place it on the head. Okay. Many of you will recognize the sacred hot dog hat on loan from our own Barb Royal. This hat imbues me with the power to enthuse about our church's annual fabulously fun food fair fundraiser. Everybody say it, fabulously fun food fair fundraiser, more colloquially known as the food fair. This is our biggest and most fun fundraiser of the church year. Okay, I'm gonna have to just do this right here. Okay. Members and friends create fun, warm, creative, delicious events loosely surrounding food. And I do mean loosely. We've had event hosts offer full-fledged picnics in the park with pickleball competitions, craft nights with wine and chocolate, and even an artisan mustard tasting. This is how it works. Hosts design a fun time for their fellow churchgoers where they provide food, fun, maybe an outing or a themed dinner, or just a really awesome barbecue. You set a seat limit and a date. It can be any time basically from this May to next March. The ticket price will go to the church, and you as host donate your time, talent, and treasure. Remember, we talked about that last week. To offering your fabulously fun food fair event where you can meet new people, reconnect with old friends, and eat some great food. Submissions for your creative food fair events are due by April 15th. Everybody, April 15th. Okay. Then on Saturday, April 30th, please note that's a Saturday and it's in the evening, not a Sunday morning. On Saturday the 30th in the evening at an in-person event, your church friends get to purchase tickets to your event and secure themselves a seat. More info will be forthcoming on how all that will work. Watch the food fair page on the website. It's under Find Community. For now, we need you to create a great food event and submit it, or several, feel free, and submit it by, what was that date? April 15th. Excellent. Check the website. We're actually updating the submission form right now, but you can also always email foodfair@ucdsm.org for more information. Happy eating.
What was that date again, Louise?
Boy, how do I follow that one? I need a better hat. Pizza, cheese, something. Our meditation today is from a pastoral prayer of longing written by Reverend Karen G. Johnson. Spirit of life and love, our hearts are overflowing with lamentation and longing for a world with more hope and less despair, longing for more happy hearts and fewer hungry mouths, longing for a life of more connection and less isolation, longing for a brave love, a growing seed within us spreading far and wide, longing for a future of less consumption and more compassion. Actually, longing for that now, longing for a government that quells hate and violence rather than generating it, longing for a president that always speaks truth, longing for a nation that acknowledges its injustices and works to make them right, longing for a present with each of us doing what is ours to resist racism and oppression, longing for companions to give us courage, that we might be the people these times require us to be to bring about beloved community. Holding those words and the thoughts they engender in mind, Please join me in a minute of silence, meditation, or prayer. We come together week after week as a community, in small groups and in large, here on Sundays, in the kitchen, discussing the kitchen project. We're here together as human beings, witnessing one another in the good times and the bad. That's what church is all about. May we hold in our thoughts and our prayers this week the people of Ukraine, who are struggling so hard. The people of Russia who are being cut off from information. And the people of the world impacted by this latest bloody struggle. Let us share together the names of anyone we know who could use special care and attention this week. You can type their name into the chat, or you can speak it aloud here into the room so that the love of the community can hold them all. May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May the work of our hands and our hearts support, aid, and comfort all those who hunger or thirst for food or water, justice or freedom. May we never look away when we are needed. May we always hear the laments. May those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed, and may those who are filled with joy and laughter always be abundant. Now together we're going to light 3 candles, and Louise is going to light for us. We're going to light one for the joys and the sorrows shared here today, and one for the names we've written and spoken, and one last candle for all of the joys and all of the sorrows that we hold deeply in our hearts, but which have remained unspoken here today.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing
Our first reading today is an example of a modern lamentation written by a Roman Catholic nun, Sister Melanie Svoboda. In her prelude to the Lamentation, she writes, "Some people might think that prayers of lamentation are too whiny, too complaining, maybe even disrespectful of God. Nevertheless, there is a rightful place for this form of prayer in our spirituality. I was reminded of this by a priest friend of mine recently. After a conversation concerning some of the gloom and doom of this past year, and especially the past few weeks, he suggested that since I am a writer, I take some of my feelings of anguish, fear, and anger, and then compose my own prayer of lamentation. So here it is. My lamentation, which focuses primarily on COVID and a few other contemporary headlines. Oh God, my God, where are you? Don't you see us wallowing in pain and suffering? Don't you realize we are on the brink of despair? Look around. COVID has disrupted everything we once knew as normal. It has taken away millions of our loved ones. Many of them are dying alone with no family member or friend to hold their hand or give them comfort. Can't you see our overcrowded hospitals, our medical workers being pushed to the edge? The refrigerated trucks parked outside our hospitals ready to receive more bodies. Our funeral homes overwhelmed with the number of our deceased. Oh God, my God, where are you? Because of COVID, we must wear masks, constantly wash our hands, stay socially distant from one another, and refrain from hugs and handshakes. This is a real hardship for many of us, but far worse, millions of people have lost their jobs. Countless businesses have been shuttered. People are lining up for hours just to get food for their families for another week. They live in constant fear of eviction. Oh God, just when I think things can't get any worse, they do. How bad do things have to get before you help us? And God, there is another virus besides COVID that is wreaking havoc among us. The plague of divisiveness is afflicting your people, especially in this land. Tell me, God, how did we get to this point where anyone who is not a member of our particular political party is an automatic enemy? Why have we become a people of us and them, and not a people of equal citizens all belonging to the same nation? How did the aisle in our Congress become a chasm so wide that very few of our elected officials can cross over it to the other side? The choir is now going to sing. The song we're actually going to do is called All Together We Are Love.
I am a dreamer, I am a song, I am a mountain, tall and strong, tall and strong. I am a song, I am a song. I am a song, I
What might it mean to be overcome and yet go on in hope? Lamentations in the Hebrew Bible is not a happy book. It is disaster poetry. Like other art, poetry tries to evoke things we find difficult to name. In this case, loss, suffering, even God-forsakenness. In the Jewish community, the scroll of Lamentations is traditionally read on the 9th of Av, the day to commemorate and mourn the tragic events of Jewish history, including the Holocaust. It is a text of grief. The power of tears, which are downplayed in our society, flow openly on lamentation. The lamenters do not look away from the pain, but right towards it. There is no way to go around the grief, the loss, the hurt, the disappointment, but only through it, only by naming it in detail. This kind of cataclysm could easily be cause for despair, but instead of despair, we find a lament. Some readers of this poem have noticed that though it starts out in the form of a death song, as it goes on, it changes into a lament, something only done by the living, by those who want to be living more fully. Especially at a moment when the future of the Hebrew language seemed on the brink in the face of the imperial language of Aramaic, to write a poem in one's mother tongue is a mundane way of going forward, of claiming that life is worth claiming. Even to utter those things is an act of resistance. Poetry, even disaster poetry, becomes an ordinary way of resisting. Exile and annihilation, but also nothingness and despair. Our centering song today is number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song. Please keep your mics muted and sing along at home with Sarah, if you would like.
Friends rejoice both far and near. How can I keep from singing? Prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to Him are ringing. Since friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
So lamentation is a lot of things, but what it is most is refusal to give in to despair. When all other options are gone, when your life is the worst it can be, you still have the agency to lament. And the word has been given short shrift lately in our modern American culture. You'll see it in books. Oh, they were out of donuts, she lamented. How sad, he lamented, I just washed my car. You'll see it in that sense, meaning something was sad or said sadly. And that is a legitimate use of the word, but it's not the use we're talking about today. Today we're talking about a theological construct. They're related. A lament is very different from a request or a complaint. A request asks somebody for a thing with an expectation of being told yes or no. You may get told to get lost, but you've asked somebody for the thing. Can I have your coffee? No, go away. Okay. That's a request. A complaint is a critique or a dissatisfaction. I don't like the way you're drinking that coffee. Well, go pound sand. Okay, great, I'm leaving. That's a complaint. I don't like. You messed up my coffee. I want a new one. You're still talking to one person and telling them about something that is specifically wrong. This coffee is not to my satisfaction. Both complaints and requests imply that the person being told has some kind of specific ability to fix the situation. While I like Adrian very much, hi Adrian, I'm picking on you today, I would not walk up to him and go, Adrian, my coffee from Starbucks this morning was terrible. Okay. Can I help you with that somehow? Well, the answer is no. There's nothing he could do about my experience with Starbucks. I can't complain to him. I can't make any request that is reasonable of him. But I can lament. A lament is different. In many ways, it's a statement that whoever I'm telling isn't going to do anything. I can't do anything right this minute, but I'm hurt. If I lament to Adrian about my coffee, maybe it's my last dollar, maybe that was the only cup I could have this week, and it was wrecked. I'm not expecting him to fix it. I don't want his money. I don't want him to drive to Starbucks or yell at the barista. What I want in that minute is for him to see my pain, not to judge it, not to decide if it's real or unreal or should be or shouldn't be. When I lament, I take agency where I have none. And I say to the world, listen, I'm hurt. We have just gone through some really rough years. As our one reading said, people were out of jobs, COVID, now the Ukraine. There are times the world just hurts. And all you want is for somebody to comfort you. Paradoxically, lament is one of the ways you do that. In 1917, Gershom Scholem, who's a Kabbalistic scholar, he wrote about lamentation and language. Now, I can tell you right now, I read what he wrote. I read it in translation, the original's in German. I have a master's degree. It took me 3.5 weeks. I'm still not sure I understand every bit of it. But what I could get and what I could glean from what this brilliant person wrote was amazing. Bernard Whitty, who's a scholar of Scholem's work, writes, in the context of his epilogue on Lament and Lamentation, Scholem writes, silence is the origin of language, the language of lament. The language of lament for Scholem is the equivalent of this paradoxical phenomenon. From his work on the translation of Hebrew, specifically Hebrew dirges, into German, he concludes that in lament, language annihilates itself, it turns into silence. He defines lament in brief as lament is language disappearing. If you think about that for a minute, we're back to that 3-year-old just standing there, sobbing, holding their knee and screaming, it hurts. It's beyond language. We understand the hurt by seeing their face and their body. The words are immaterial. They help us to understand the specifics. This definition, as he writes it, is only understandable if one sees in language an unending continuum that reaches from revelation, in which language reveals itself as absolutely positive, to the negative pole of silence, at which point language becomes nothing. On this continuum, lament marks the border at which human language becomes silence. Lament is nothing other than a language on the border, language of the border. As a borderline phenomenon, lament still participates in human language, but at the same time, it causes language's annihilation. Lament has a form, but it has no content. The entire content is not about the spoken words. They give form to the emotion that you're feeling. You could lament in gibberish. While true lament has words, it is beyond words. It is putting pure pain and pure grief out into the world so that you can let them go. When something is too raw, too hurtful for words, you lament. Unitarian Universalism doesn't really have a formal tradition of lamenting. Lamenting is found in Judaism and Christianity and Islam, but we don't typically teach it. Why? Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons, and among them are the fact that UUs tend to skew college-educated, humanist, atheist, Buddhist. So it isn't a tradition that we come out of in general. But sometimes words fail us. When you think about when you've been hurt the worst in your life, were you able to sit there and calmly articulate it over coffee? Sometimes there's nothing to ask for, and sometimes there's nothing you can complain about that anyone could do anything about. But the spoken words of a lament help to create a paradoxical silence, a calming in the middle of that raw emotion. You know, last week I mentioned the song Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, the Crosby, Stills, and Nash song. The one line that I didn't mention was one that followed the quote I used, and this is, "Sometimes it hurts so badly I must cry out loud." Sometimes the only thing you can do is to ask for the universe or a god or a goddess or your community to witness your pain. It's the ultimate in anti-gaslighting. Have you ever really hurt and thought, maybe I'm really not hurt this bad? I mean, admittedly, it feels this bad, but maybe it shouldn't. Maybe I'm whiny. Maybe I'm taking it too hard. You're gaslighting yourself. Lament says you are real. It makes your pain something that you own, that you're entitled to speak about. So how does a lament work? Can you just scream or cry? Well, sure. The most formal form of lament as a theological concept has a few parts to it. So if you're putting this down on paper, there's kind of a system to it. First, it's common to address someone or something larger than yourself. Who are you lamenting to? If you're an atheist or a humanist, it might be your community, your church community, the universe. Doesn't have to be. It could literally be, I am lamenting to this rock over here. Who am I telling? And I would suggest that your community is your best bet. This is like a 12-step program where certain steps require you to speak to another person. So to lament, you tell someone. If a deity doesn't suit you, don't use one. You address the lament to something that will witness your pain, that will make you feel like you're not being gaslit, that it's real and it's true and it's happening to you and you don't deserve it. Second part is you speak truth about why you are addressing this deity or this community. You enumerate some of the reasons why you trust it to hear your pain. Whatever you are addressing shouldn't do you harm. So when you pick where you're addressing your lament, make sure it's somewhere you trust. Third, you get to state the actual complaint. For any of you who were Seinfeld watchers and are familiar with Festivus, this is the airing of the grievances. You articulate the hurt, the harm, even if it's small, even if it's you took my chocolate bar and you knew I was saving that for a special treat when I got home and now I want to cry. Doesn't matter. We as a society get told that we're supposed to say, it's okay, no problem. Well, maybe you've had a bad year and it is a problem. We see in the news people that stab each other over pork chops. Now, I'm not suggesting we do that. But maybe it really hurt and you really looked forward to that dinner all day and now you can't have it and it's just one drop too many in your bucket. Sometimes we aren't fine, and lament lets us say that. Fourth comes the wonderful part. You get to tell the god or goddess or deity or community that you are talking to, either, I did nothing to deserve this. The world stinks right now. It's not fair. I didn't deserve it. Or, more interestingly, I absolutely deserved everything that has just landed on my head. I made the world's worst decisions, did the world's dumbest stunt, and this hurts. This really, really, really hurts. This piece lets you reclaim your community, even when you've done something wrong. That's amazing. You still get to say, I am hurt, even if you're the bad guy in the situation. Fifth is a simple request for any help that the universe or the deity or a community wants to give you. Now, it's not addressed to any one person, not a request of a person. You're just putting it out there. I screwed up and spent all my money gambling. Now I lost my house and I'm tired and I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight. I need food. Someone send me groceries. Perfectly suitable lament. Sixth is a fun one. It's any response you've actually gotten from the deity. This one is often omitted. Many people leave it out because either God or the goddess or their community has not responded yet, or they don't believe a response is going to happen, though it may. But if something is already going well, this is where you say it. And seventh is a vow to praise or support or trust whoever you're speaking lament to. So what would an atheist lament look like? Well, it looks like this. Beloved friends, it's me. I need you to listen to me. I've been a member of this church for 42 years, and you've always been here for me. My life is a mess right now. My dog is sick, and I broke my legs. My kids stole my car. I haven't done a thing to deserve any of this. Well, though I didn't call the police when I could have. But I need support and love and comfort right now, and I need help with my bills. I don't know what else to do. I know you were all there for me last year when I broke my arm, and you've always been there when I needed you. I love my community, and I'm going to keep telling people how great it is, and I know you will all be there for me, just like I'll be there for you. That's a perfectly good lament. Reclaiming your right to lament is especially meaningful right now when the world is tough. It's okay to be tired and scared and need help, and need your pain to be seen and vindicated. As members of community, we're called to validate one another when they call on us, to witness them. It's not our job to fix it. Most of the time we can't. Lamentation just asks, see me, validate that I'm hurt, echo that back to me, that someone sees that I'm wounded right now. Lamentations can be spoken or they can be written. They can be put on video. They can be done as prayer or as loud screaming. According to writer Linda Austin, many of the oldest and most lasting poems in human history are laments. The lament for Sumer and dates back 4,000 years. Lamenting is available to everyone. So the next time life doesn't feel good, just consider reclaiming the lament. Write it down or shout it out. Stand up and recite it for your community of support. Ask your small group to listen to it. Join a 4,000-year-old multi-faith tradition, which does not suffer silence alone. It lets pain be shared in community, because your pain never has to be invisible. Your community is always there for you. Amen.
We extinguish our chalice, but not the light of love or the call to witness and affirm all those who suffer and cry out. Our final song today is number 1053, How Could Anyone? It's in the Teal hymnal, and we're going to sing it through twice. Please keep your mics muted and sing along at home if you would like.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How
May you always be heard and witnessed whenever you cry out. Go in peace, Ashe, and may it be so.
Soul of truth, eternal goodness, sojourn with us as we part. Fill our minds with high endeavor. Keep us just